Welcome to A Delhi Love, Ishq Muhabbat Pyar, the podcast that treats Dilliwalas to captivating conversations on living and loving all things Delhi. Delhi is not just a place, it's a state of mind, an attitude that leaves a mark on everyone who visits or calls it home. I'm Yasmin Kidwai, your host, a documentary filmmaker, former municipal councillor, and at heart, the quintessential Delhi girl. I love how Delhi is both old and new at the same time. I value its history and heritage and love exploring the new aspects of the city we share. I'm no expert, but I grew up in the gullies here, enjoyed public service here, and just like you, shared a deep passion for Delhi's enigmatic soul. Together, let's embrace the delightful contradictions that make Delhi the city it is. After all, around every corner, there must be 1,000 dastans to share in this megacity of a million conversations. Today we are talking about the iconic Sundar Nursery, Delhi's newest public landmark. Sundar Nursery, formerly Azim Bagh or Bagh-e-Azim, is a 16th century heritage park built by Indian Mughals. It lies on the original Grand Trunk Road. For those who might not know Delhi well, Sundar Nursery can be found right between Humayun's tomb and the Dargah of Hazrat Nizamuddin Aulia and actually cannot be spotted from the main roads. It's intriguing how this historical treasure remained hidden from the bustling main roads, a serene oasis waiting to be discovered. The restoration of Sundar Nursery started in 2009, when the Aga Khan Trust for Culture and Conservation, after approvals from multiple government departments like the ASI, the CPWD, etc., created a master plan. The idea was to create a major landscape space of a truly urban scale, deriving inspiration from the traditional Indian concepts of nature and utility with environmental preservation. Today, it's the largest nursery in central Delhi, 152 acres of green open space for Dilliwalas to enjoy. I can't wait to hear the story from the man behind it all, Ratish Nanda. Ratish is a prominent figure in conservation and cultural heritage and heads the Aga Khan Trust for Culture and Conservation in India. Ratish has been at the forefront of transformative projects which blend heritage preservation with community development. He has headed the restoration of the Humayun's tomb, the tomb of Abdul Rahim Khane-Khana, Sabz Burj, Sundar Nursery, and the Hazrat Nizamuddin Basti in Delhi.
But critically, I think one of the big achievements at Sundar Nursery was that we freed about 20 acres of land from encroachment. The park is a refuge. We get a lot of single women who come, sit here, read a book, do their work. We make sure that they are safe. We now have 118 bird species in Sundar Nursery. We've been very privileged to document some birds that are not even known to have been in Delhi, like the ultramarine flycatcher twice. Now, how many people know that Emperor Akbar knew the 1,000 Sanskrit names of the sun god and was actually praying to the sun god every morning?
Ratish, welcome. And today we are talking about Sundar Nursery, one of the main projects that the Aga Khan Trust for Culture and Conservation is known for in Delhi. But what not many people know is this is not the first project that the Aga Khan Trust for Culture took up in Delhi. There was the Hazrat Nizamuddin Basti and Humayun's tomb.
So we really started in Delhi to fulfill a UNESCO requirement to restore the gardens of Humayun's tomb. That was the Aga Khan, His Highness the Aga Khan's gift to India on the occasion of the 50th anniversary of India's independence. And that, when we finished in 2002, led to an almost 1,000% increase in visitor numbers to Humayun's tomb. Then in 2004, then Dr. Manmohan Singh, Prime Minister of India, also Minister of Culture, requested His Highness for more public-private partnership projects in the field of culture in India. So we looked at many projects across the country and chose to come back to Humayun's tomb with the intention to undertake a large urban conservation and development project to show how conservation can lead to development. And this spread across 300 acres, included the Archaeological Survey of India's ensemble of Humayun's tomb, the CPWD's Sundar Nursery, and with the municipal corporation, major social economic development infrastructure at Hazrat Nizamuddin Basti.
And where did you start first, the Nizamuddin Basti or you've also undertaken the Sabz Burj now, which is the most iconic Instagrammable place in Delhi today. That's also part of the initiative, right?
I think the key thing is that the monuments need to restore to their original grandeur so that we understand what the original builders were. Now, in the conservation of Sabz Burj, we discovered so much, including the earliest wall painted monument in the whole Islamic world, that we are now able to say that this was built by Humayun for his mother. So we started with the health and education program in Nizamuddin. We started with conservation of some of the other monuments, and together it's taken us more than 15 years, but we have landscaped 200 acres. We've conserved about 60 monuments, including Humayun's tomb and 20 monuments in Sundar Nursery and the others in the Nizamuddin Basti. And we have, done various measures, including vocational training, health, sanitation, and all that, so that almost every individual in Nizamuddin has benefited.
Yeah. But tell me now, when you Sundar Nursery, since we're talking about that specifically today, looks like this, this example of architectural brilliance. Everything is so linear and neat and clean. How was it when you first entered this space? I remember going in the earlier years when the work was still on, and it can't even be spotted from the main, this major, which has now become a iconic landmark in Delhi. It couldn't even be spotted. How was it your first look of Sundar Nursery?
So I think the key part is that the Sundar Nursery monuments are part of the same ensemble that is centered at the Dargah of Hazrat Nizamuddin Auliya. So people wanted to be buried for 500 years close to the Dargah. And these were all garden tombs. And unfortunately, when the Sundar Nursery in the 1920s was created to experiment with plants for New Delhi, it became a sort of a plant nursery exclusively for mostly government use, and access was limited. As a result, for example, 22,000 square meters of roads. It was for many years, just our doing the project, it was a Malba dumping ground. I think the potential was there. Professor Muhammad Shahir was the landscape architect. I think he achieved incredible brilliance there. Shahir Saab used to be in Delhi. He passed away, unfortunately, 6 years ago. So now what we have in Sundar Nursery is we have 20 restored monuments, including 6 wells. We have large performance spaces for cultural events. We have 300 species of trees. So we put in about 20,000 trees.
You have planted these new trees?
Okay. Yeah, so there were already about 100 species. We planted 300 species of trees. So it's like Delhi's first arboretum. But what has been incredible is that this year we'll have 1 million visitors, and with diverse interests. So people are coming there for bird watching. People are coming there for, just family picnics. That's a lot of our visitors. People are coming there for, of course, cultural performances, and we're planning to do a lot more with children.
And this is not when it was inaugurated and the Aga Khan had come for that, the work continued. It was not done in one go, right?
No.
Because in the beginning, as I was reading, there were 12 monuments which were taken up, and now you're saying there are 20 which have been renovated on this thing.
Yeah, when you say 12, that doesn't include the wells, for example.
Yeah.
So by 2018 November, when we opened the park, a lot of it has been done, but we've formed with the CPWD and the ASI a management trust that allows us not only to maintain and manage the garden in the manner it's designed for, but also to continue adding additions, such as the children's play area and so on, for which we see a demand. But critically, I think one of the big achievements at Sundar Nursery was that we freed about 20 acres of land from encroachment. And so when we started, Sundar Nursery was 67 acres. Today, it's almost 90 acres.
And this encroachment was from was Malba, or was it people living there?
No, this was actually all sorts of encroachments, but there were large stores, there were clubs. There was something called a Parkland Club with its own swimming pool and all of that.
Oh, okay.
There were over 100 buildings built here, which we knocked out overnight about 10 years ago.
And tell me the conservation process. Will you take us through that? That how did the specifics of
Happily.
that go?
Happily. I think what we at the Aga Khan Trust for Culture are trying to do everywhere is to demonstrate model projects that can be replicated everywhere. When we started conservation of Humayun's Tomb and some of these other monuments in 2007-8, we realized very early on that in order to conserve these monuments, we will have to really depend on the craft skills that have fortunately survived in India and some which haven't, to return to the original builder's intention. And so we have clocked over 1.5 million man days of work by stone carvers, masons, tile
And these
makers.
are not all from Delhi.
Craftsmen usually travel for work, so a lot of these are from outside Delhi, but some crafts we revived. For example, the tile making craft was lost to India. We got Uzbek craftsmen who trained local youth from Nizamuddin to start making these tiles. So I think the key thing with conservation is we've tried, in partnership with the Archaeological Survey of India, we've tried to set up a model which is replicated model process replicated for all the 60 monuments. And that starts with proper architectural documentation, doing a structural and a condition assessment, writing a conservation plan, the ASI and other peer reviews to approve the plan, and then high degree of supervision, but always using traditional materials, never anything modern.
So was it all preservation and restoration, or did you have to do some recreation also?
So that has been very critical, at least in the Sundar Nursery monuments. A lot of these monuments had been lost. And for the past 100 years, it's mostly been preservation has been the approach. But over here, we had to really do a lot of reconstruction, building what had been lost. And this has generally been frowned upon in India, not elsewhere. And so there was a lot of controversy, there was a lot of discussion. Why reconstruction? Is it even the same monument? And we were very, very grateful that in 2016, 6 of the Sundar Nursery monuments and another 6 monuments in the Humayun's Tomb complex were added to the World Heritage Site by UNESCO. And UNESCO at that point in their citation say this sets the standard for conservation. This sets a new bar for conservation. And I think when your monuments have really been distorted in the past 100 years, or collapse due to neglect or vandalism, then reconstruction is a very valid conservation approach that is today followed the world over.
And so how difficult or easy was it for you to get matching the same color and, getting the stone? Where did you procure the material from?
No, I think
I remember also coming, and that time you were also there was a lot of mixing and grinding which used to keep going on at the Sundar Nursery.
So I think the critical thing is that when you use traditional materials, you're assured that it has thousands or hundreds of years of use, which means this material will last. So for us, what was absolutely critical is to get the material right, whether it's sandstone, whether it's chuna, whether it's mother of pearl, whether it is glazed tiles. Just for the glazed tiles, we had to do 20,000 samples over 3 years to get the color right. And it had become frustrating, but now looking back, it's been very much worth it.
It has been. I mean, you were talking about the UNESCO declaring it as World Heritage, 6 monuments, but 12 now. 6 in Sundar Nursery. And Times Magazine declared it as one of the 100 world's greatest places and an exceptional restoration project.
No, and those things, those awards, those recognitions, the 1 million visitors annually.
And 1 million during the pandemic.
Yes.
That was one of the places which people in Delhi kind of thronged to in the pandemic. Why do you think that was? Was it because it's new, or is it the openness, or there is something in the design that is? It has more number of people than any other public space today in Delhi.
What is surprising is that everybody who comes into Sundar Nursery pays a ticket. Now, most other public spaces are free. And yet
in spite of that,
and 75% of our visitors are still using public transport. So it is a park for almost all classes, everybody mingling together. And we often go back to our visitors asking questions that try to help us understand why people are coming here. So I think the key thing is the design. It takes everybody. It's really
Very
looks as
inclusive.
paradise.
Yeah.
And then I think there is cleanliness, security, all of those issues. We have over 100 CCTV cameras, 30 security guards. The greenery is and the maintenance of it takes
And
a
you've
lot of
been able
effort.
to sustain that.
So that is another key thing that our objective is to demonstrate how our heritage sites can become financially sustainable. So in 2018, we created a trust under the chairmanship of the Secretary Urban Development that allows the funds that are that people pay, tickets, rentals and all that, to be plowed back into the maintenance.
Okay.
And for this period up till now, we've been making up the shortfall. But we're very confident that within the coming months, years, the Sundar Nursery, in terms of operations, will be self-sufficient. The investment that we at the Aga Khan Trust for Culture did in terms of building the park is a grant, is a gift to India. But we would be very much keen that that the park is able to sustain itself financially without any grants from ourselves or anybody else or the government.
So there's been a lot of debate, in fact, especially in India, about the ticketing process. So this seems to show that is the way to go. People do value it if they are paying a little bit for it, and it's then becomes sustainable also. You were talking about how people feel, and I was reading somewhere that women have said they feel very safe in the park. That's so wonderful to hear, especially as a woman in a place like Delhi. One is the concept of urban spaces which are safe for women is, I think, not something which is really looked upon and not talked about, and is something we, as urban planners, need to give attention to. So I don't think that was the plan, but perhaps it's the openness of Sundar Nursery, and like you're saying, the security guards, the number of people, and the maintenance is making women feel safe over there.
No, I think women and children have been the focus of our attention, both for what we've done in Nizamuddin in terms of with the community health, education, sanitation, etc., but also at Sundar Nursery. I think the park is a refuge. We get a lot of single women who come, sit here, read a book, do their work, and we make sure that they are safe. And we've had to learn from a lot of our experiences. We've had to raise boundary walls, we've had to add cameras, we've had to train our security people to watch out for any sort of even.
There is a specific intention to that. It's not something which has just happened. You have paid attention to that, and the intention has been to do that.
No, absolutely. I think what is key is park management or a site management. I think this takes a lot of effort. It is an interdisciplinary approach. And the team is, as you know, got a lot of women in it. So those concerns are always there. But what we're also trying to demonstrate is that parks don't manage themselves. They need sustained professional technical input across many factors to ensure that this is a world-class park.
You were talking of the public-private partnership, and tell me, how easy or difficult was it to you? There were so many government departments, not just departments, agencies involved. So there was the CPWD, there was the ASI, there was the Delhi government, there was the municipal corporation, and I was the
Delhi Development Authority.
Oh, they were also, I didn't know. Okay, so DDA is there. I was a part of the municipal corporation, so I have some idea how easy or difficult it was for you. But how was it taking together all these agencies and kind of working through this? Because you have shown it to be an example of public-private partnership, that it is possible. But I'm sure it came with its fair. And Delhi being a country's capital, and with this statehood, there are multiple agencies pulling in different directions sometimes, due to which a lot of work suffers in Delhi.
Absolutely. I think first key thing that we did is we get 3 agencies with totally diverse mandates, the ASI, the CPWD and the MCD, to sign a single piece of paper that ratifies their, all of these agencies towards a single goal.
Which is
the whole project. Yeah. So they all signed the same piece of paper. We earlier thought we will do 3 meetings a year, everybody will sit on the same table and it'll all get resolved. But very quickly we learnt that we will have to continue to engage with each agency individually. So there is no shortcut to that. I think clearly there is suspicion for the private sector in government, and rightly so. Totally understand. But I think what we needed to overcome that suspicion and get more and more support was to demonstrate success, but also to engage in a very intense manner. So for many years, we would generally have between 80 to 100 meetings with each of these three agencies. In 1 year.
Oh, okay.
So it was, and people say, community, how did you work with this community? People can be difficult, but again, no shortcut. We would continue for 15 years. I think we would have had at least 5-6 different sort of meetings every week in the Nizamuddin Basti to talk about the different aspects of the project. And so that adds up to, almost 200, 250 community meetings every year, 300, 400 public meetings every year. There is no shortcut to that. I think the intention of the project has to be explained.
But tell me, what was your most challenging moment in this entire... I think you won't say, you're the calm person. You're not going to say anything.
No. I think the challenges were beyond belief, and the challenges, there was a new challenge every day, and that has continued. Imagine. But I think, as His Highness the Aga Khan has repeatedly said, we cannot afford to fail. We have to do what it takes to make this happen. And the Aga Khan's own commitment to being able to do all of this was incredible. But also in terms of public-private partnership, we have another factor. We've been able to, such a large project, the hundreds and hundreds of crores that are needed for it, could not have only come from one agency. So we built a lot of partnerships even with donor agencies. National trusts such as the Tata Trusts, corporate trusts such as Havells, Indigo, international governments such as the US Ambassadors Fund for Cultural Preservation, the German Embassy, the Norwegians, and even government, the Ministry of Tourism, Government of India gave us a large grant towards setting up a museum. So we see ourselves as bridge between public, private, and so on. Building partnerships is, for us, as big a mandate as actually doing the work.
Yeah, and to keep everybody on board and on the same page.
Yeah.
You were talking about holding these meetings in Hazrat Nizamuddin Basti, and like we mentioned earlier, not many people know that Sundar Nursery is part of a large holistic project which involves your work in the Hazrat Nizamuddin Basti, and that is the actual mandate. And in Hazrat Nizamuddin Basti, you have been working on healthcare, sanitation, education, employment generation, and can you tell a little more about how much of the project is that, and how did you navigate that because that was a part of a constituency I represented, so I've seen this up front and close, but how would you share that part of the work?
I think about 30-40 years ago, the Aga Khan Trust for Culture is part of a much larger network of agencies called the Aga Khan Development Network, quite loosely. Now, we have very different mandates. We work with culture. There are other agencies that work with microfinance, finance, tourism. There are others which do health, education, sanitation, rural development. But what ties us all together is the fact that we all working towards improving quality of life. We try to leverage cultural assets. So when the Government of India in 2004 offered us 50 grand monuments to choose from, we actually didn't go anywhere else but came back here, because here was the potential of a conservation project to improve quality of life of the local community, which is Nizamuddin Basti. So as you said, the fact that all our intervention in Nizamuddin Basti were critical to us coming back to Humayun's tomb. And the third piece of the puzzle was to create a park. Now, this is very similar to our sort of flagship project in Cairo at the Al-Azhar Park, where you get more visitors than the pyramids. But I think and we did exhaustive base, because the team is interdisciplinary. There are people who are development specialists. So we did exhaustive baseline surveys. We understood what the Nizamuddin community needed. We had great input from you as the counselor, your predecessor Farhad Saab as a counselor, who were able to channelize the project's efforts into really meaningful initiatives that have led, 30 kids have gone to American universities. Women who have never earned a penny. Last year, just the craft group earned more than 80 lakh of rupees together. So, that and that demonstrate that conservation is not just some elitist thing, but can and very much should lead to development.
And it's the monuments are tangible and can be seen, but all this work, it's not just the craftswomen. I am also aware of now the group has become so popular, and I think we should share the name, is Zaika and Nizamuddin.
At this moment they are guest chefs at the Marriott in Bombay.
And they have been traveling all across. They were in Kochi last year, if I'm not mistaken.
Kochi, Hyderabad, serving Nizamuddin biryani to the Hyderabadis. I love it. But yeah, these are women who never stepped out of their
home.
And this Zaika group was really set up to address malnutrition. Set up to make healthy snacks, which we could sell in the neighborhood, give to the school kids. And they have a food truck in Sundar Nursery now, and
which is quite popular.
Very popular.
Yeah, it's very popular. But they were also part of the, like you said, they started at the school, and the school is also another of your initiatives which you did with the municipal corporation, and that was for children till class 5.
So one of the first interventions in Nizamuddin was not any heritage. It was really, rebuilding the school, but also teacher training, placing community teachers that continue to work there. So the MCD teachers are assisted by 2 community teachers who are from the community, whose heart is in the community. And all of these, now the program is 100% community run, because these are people who have worked with us for 10-15 years, been able to be get proper training. And the future of the Nizamuddin program, just like the future of, it lies in these groups coming together and continuing to work for the betterment of their own people.
So taking from that, how did the entire project become a catalyst? People have taken ownership, which is very important, and there's been a revival of the culture. Zaika and Nizamuddin is reviving the traditional recipes. And the craft group is, you've brought in the traditional, the craft, I think the Zardozi and embroidery, and they're also doing what is the work that you do on the
Sanji?
The paper cutting, which has become very popular. So that also was a part of the revival, this thing. And were these conscious efforts to promote a sense of ownership and pride? And even among the youth, the youth are a part of the guide training, and they are working as guides in both Humayun too.
A lot of them are.
Yeah. So was that conscious?
So this was all, essentially we started in 2008 by getting the youth group to do a cultural mapping of Nizamuddin. This was from their eyes. So we asked them, what is important to you? And map it. So even the topis, the monuments, it was very interesting. And these women were very good at some of this Ari, Zardozi, crochet, and so on. It was like fish taking to water. We were there to handhold, provide design inputs, provide marketing.
And there was no group. There was nothing which was working.
Now there are formal groups. There are formal self-help groups were established, and several of them. And I think they all have their own elections. They all work independently, and they become quite a lot of feisty women.
So tell me, why was it so important to involve the locals and to improve the quality of life of the local community? Conservation is mainly seen as a very elitist endeavor, right?
So in a context like India, you cannot be concerned about what our past was without worrying about our future. Our belief is that the cultural heritage is one major economic asset that the community has. A community that has 700 years of built heritage, intangible heritage, should be a empowered, rich, well-to-do community. It should not be a community that is begging for handouts.
And here we're talking of community as in the urban cluster, the residents of Hazrat Nizamuddin Basti. Yeah.
So there are about 20,000 residents, but there are also 20,000 floating population, and we were concerned about almost all of them. And we also had the belief that through this cultural heritage, whether it's Qawwali music that was born here, whether it's the cuisine that Zaika now promotes, whether it's the craft groups that Insha and Noor do, or simply the built heritage which the local youth now do, heritage walks. These are all, for us, economic assets that we were trying to help the community leverage for social economic gain.
And, how can you say that this conservation led to this pride, made it sustainable, and actually has become a source of revenue generation now? And like for the Sundar Nursery, we are saying that when you started your ticketing, and that's become a source of revenue generation. Even these craft revival has led to.
I think the self-help group of the women is straightforward. We know how much revenue they're making, how much they're giving to each member. But I think it's also, pride is huge, because we've had young boys and girls saying, we were embarrassed to live here. We didn't even tell our classmates in school.
And this is a cluster in the heart of Delhi.
Now we are very proud that we are owners of this 700 years of heritage. So there's a lot of pride, and I think pride brings confidence. Confidence opens hundreds of doors. The US embassy's micro scholarship for access English teaching, 700 kids have learned English. Now that has resulted in almost 3,000 of them getting jobs. We did a huge amount of vocational training, not what we wanted them to learn, but what their aspirations was.
The most they're working in some are working salons. In parlors, these are salons.
That was the most popular. I was shocked that both boys and girls wanted to have salon training.
Yes,
and that was the most expensive. So
but you also have doctors coming out of it.
So health, significant. So I think these changes take a generation. The problem is that there is not enough building regulation, so there is a lot of more buildings coming up in that. The urban environment, the impact on the urban environment from our parks and streets has not been so enormous. But I think the impact of these young kids becoming doctors and other professionals is going to have a huge impact on the Basti in the next 10-20 years.
Yeah, and you think this is how conservation can go beyond just preserving monuments, making it more collaborative and inclusive. You've also, these urban spaces we were talking about, there are these, the park space, which has been reclaimed in Hazrat Nizamuddin Basti. It's a very safe place for women. They, in fact, they have their own little mela over there, which they run. And through your Apna Basti Mela, in fact, you have opened up the Basti to the rest of the city.
Yeah. I think what was shocking is some of the statistics that came out of baseline surveys. We found that less than 1% of women had any sort of employment. And there were mostly domestic help workers, domestic helps. We found less than 1% of people had been to parks in the whole past year. So a lot of effort was spent with the DDA and so on to allow us to landscape these parks for community usage. We found that so the biggest problem that everybody felt was garbage. So we tried to address all of this. We set up a garbage collection system which is now self-sustainable almost. We landscaped the parks. So everything that we did really came out of the community's expressed needs for the space.
And you've said something very interesting. I was reading that communal harmony can come through these conservation efforts. Why do you say that?
I think the whole foundation of what we generally know as Hindustani culture was really born in Nizamuddin with the saints 700 years ago. The teachings of universal love, brotherhood, that then continued in Nizamuddin through the presence of Rahim, who's also buried here, his wife is buried here, Hazrat Amir Khusro and his poetry, Dara Shukho, who's buried at Humayun's tomb, whose sister Jahanara is buried at the Dargah. These were between Rahim, Dara Shukho, Nizamuddin Aulia, Hazrat Amir Khusro. These are really cultural icons of India, and all of them had almost a similar message. And everybody, and I think there is today a lot of misunderstanding about each other because people have not seen the cultural. So a lot of the music, the food, the built heritage is all shared heritage.
Yes.
And I think exposure to all of that is very critical. Now, how many people know that Emperor Akbar knew the 1,000 Sanskrit names of the sun god and was actually praying to the sun god every morning? How many people know that both Jahangir and Shah Jahan's mothers were Hindu and continued to practice Hinduism?
Jahangir and Shah Jahan. Even I didn't know that. 1,000 Sanskrit
names of the sun god. Yeah.
And where did you find that?
There are paintings depicting him praying to the sun. Not one, but many paintings.
And Humayun, you just did that exhibition that he used to follow astrology and would even dress according to days, the days of the week, or how was he as per the days of the chart?
So Emperor Humayun was heavily into astrology, as were the later Mughal emperors. I mean, Humayun, Akbar, Jahangir, Shah Jahan.
And that's such an Indian...
Yeah, so Humayun really took it to an obsession. He, for example, when he was, ousted by his brothers and Sher Shah and was running away, he met the young Hamida Banu Begum, whom he wanted to marry. So after pursuing her for many days, I think 40 days, when she agreed, the first thing he did was hold an astrolabe and try to fix an auspicious time for the wedding. Now, how Indian is that?
Yeah.
He invented something called the Taj-e-Izzat, which was, Izzat is, and the Taj is his turban. So he called his turban, which he wore in a certain style, a Taj-e-Izzat. Now, for all of us in India, the Sikh community and the Rajputs and everybody, the turban is it continues to be
a pride.
Thing. And that tradition is very much an Indian tradition of where the turban is your real pride, izzat, and so on. But critically, he took the planets very seriously. He wore the color of the planet every day without fail. So black is Shanivar, Saturday, which we continue to do. But he also arranged his coat according to planetary considerations.
How is that?
So he decided that, Thursday is the day when he engages with the fakirs.
The work of the...
of the court.
Yeah.
And so every day was a certain... According to what the planet is important. So accordingly, he would meet his courtiers, or he would go to the public, or he would meet, men of spirituality. He was really into Sufism. He travelled all the way till Ardabil, which is in the north of Iran, to go to the shrine Dargah of Sheikh Safi, where he donated the cenotaph to Shah Ismail, the founder of the Shah dynasty. But so he documented and made it a practice to go to dargahs everywhere. And I think even in Akbar, building Humayun's tomb was a statement that this is who we are and we are here to stay and this is our home. Because Humayun tomb also incorporates a lot of Indian architectural traditions
within it. Now, talking of communal harmony, it plays along with the sense of pride and ownership which the locals are getting. But when you see visitors coming into, whether it's Humayun's tomb or let me say the Sundar Nursery, and they have the women from Zaika and Nizamuddin, they see the monuments. Sundar Nursery is organizing a lot of cultural, events at the amphitheater. Do you think this is an interplay which will continue to play out for communal harmony and lead to that continuously in a sustainable way as people are exposed more to each other? Because here are the people from the Hazrat Nizamuddin Basti coming out into the Sundar Nursery, and the rest of people from Delhi kind of getting, whether there's guides or as the women who are there.
No, that is a very important fallout of the whole thing. But essentially, the Nizamuddin area is the heart of Sufism in India. This is where till today we have calculated that the Dargah gets about almost 8 million visitors a year.
8 million.
And that is intense. And these are people of all faiths. It's not only Hindus
all
or Muslims. All
religions and all economic strata.
All economic strata. So I think this is the cradle of Hindustani culture, and that will continue in perpetuity.
And tell me, how does liberalization of the cultural sector then help? You were talking about it.
I think what has happened in India over the last 3 decades is that almost every sector has got liberalized. There is private initiative in education, private initiative in everything, highways, airports, airlines, everything. Culture still remains a sort of a government preserve. By restoring these monuments by private initiative, by creating a park by private initiative, I think what we've demonstrated is that there is a role for the private sector in this. And that has led to several government schemes today, such as the Adopt a Heritage, where the government is now welcoming.
And integrated, where the government can integrate with the private
welcoming.
sector,
and I think that is the only hope for India's past.
And also then to leverage it as an economic asset.
Yeah.
How is Sundar Nursery? What are the different ways that Sundar Nursery is leveraging culture as an economic asset?
So I think the key thing is we get 1 million visitors. They all pay tickets. But we also are now partnering with several other agencies to do events that are connected to nature, culture, heritage, ecology, and so on. Very important themes for all of us. So there are several other groups such as Bijom, who are doing organic farming. There is the Earth Collective, which does this organic market.
You've got a farmer's market.
We've got a group called Golden Hive, who's focusing on awareness of the bee and how important the bee is. Of course, the amphitheater is being used by a host of groups to hold performances, which are sometimes ticketed, sometimes open to the public.
And I think amphitheaters become the place to have any kind of cultural performance.
Yeah, so we've had such diverse cultural performances there, from sort of storytelling sessions to dance forms from South India coming and doing it. Essentially, it's accessible, it's clean, it's green, it's beautiful.
And then again, there is a sense of ownership it's not just the Hazrat Nizamuddin Basti has this sense of ownership, but almost every Dilliwala has this sense of pride and ownership that Sundar Nursery belongs to all of us.
Yeah, that is also for us sometimes a challenge.
A challenge.
Because what we are trying to do is trying to address different diverse interest groups. So for us, the birds are almost as important as the cultural events. But every time there's a cultural event, the bird people will say, "Oh, our birds are getting disturbed." So it's people are often so passionate about just their interest that they find it difficult. For every time we do a mela, we get a different sort of people. So for us, we are trying to make sure that Sundar Nursery remains of interest to a very diverse range of people from across economic status to anything, and we're getting there.
What would you tell people? What is the contribution people can make to kind of keep this sustainable and as pristine as it is? Heaven in Delhi, actually.
We have tried to send the message again and again that first thing is to respect that there are respect other people and other interests. Which has become the biggest sort of thing. The morning walkers only want the space for morning walker, no event. Then there are dog lovers and dog haters, like everywhere else. So for us, I think the key message is please respect others. Please be mindful that if something is happening, it is happening in a very managed manner, which will not disfigure or disturb something that is of your interest.
And I think the entire structure of Sundar Nursery is like that. It's like managed. So the landscape should inspire. Achha, Ratish, tell me, what is your absolute favorite activity to do at Sundar Nursery?
No, I'm a birder. For me, what is a joy is We now have 118 bird species.
In Delhi, in the heart of Delhi.
In Sundar Nursery, 118 bird species. I've been very privileged to document some birds that are not even known to have been in Delhi, like the ultramarine flycatcher twice. So for me, that is a great joy.
But I've also seen you with your children, definitely on all the farmers market on Sundays.
Yeah, no, I think we are as the Aga Khan Trust for Cultures managing Sundar Nursery. We're very keen that children are exposed to the built heritage, to cultural events, to good things such as organic food, to birds, to trees. And I don't bring my children often enough, but I think I would be very happy if my children grew up knowing names of trees and birds rather than action heroes.
Or PlayStation games. No, but thank you, Ratish, for joining us today. It's been wonderful getting to know the journey of Sundar Nursery.
Thank you.
And the Aga Khan Trust for Culture and
Thank you for having
work.
me. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
As we conclude this episode of Delhi Love Ishq Muhabbat Pyar, I hope you've been intrigued by the story of Sundar Nursery, a place where history, heritage and culture converse. Join us next time as we continue our exploration of Delhi's hidden gems, people, places and stories on Delhi Love Ishq Muhabbat Pyar, a love letter to our city.